What's going on? This is your man John Fortune, your host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show, and today I'm going to talk about the thing that happened today, Ron Rivera's press conference and what was said and things like that. But I mean, I'm going to start it off from the very beginning. Dustin Hopkins is released by the Washington football team for missing kicks. Crazy thing about it, he was 12 for 14 on field goals, and I think it was 10 for 12 on extra points. Or it could be the other way around, but either way. The fact that they released him is kind of amazing to me, because I told y'all a long time ago how at one point we were not only in quarterback purgatory, but we was also in kicker purgatory. And the fact that they released the kicker, to me, screams of a Hurricane Dan type of move. It doesn't help anything. I know you might want to put some fear into players' hearts and things like that, but it doesn't really do anything. Because at the end of the day, you're talking about you bringing in another guy, Blewett, which is kind of crazy. You would bring in a kicker named Blewett. That's almost like having a money manager named Madoff. We know how that stuff pans out. But either way, you sit up there and you release the one guy that, yeah, is he not playing well? That's fine. But he's not playing so poorly that he was worth being released. And then you're going to replace him with another guy that may not even pan out for you. Like, this is like the craziest thing, but this goes into the extent of, okay, it's almost like, I remember they used to call Ernie Grunfeld the Arsonist Fireman. You know, he would start the fire and then find a way to put the fire out. You know, and this reeks of that arsonist fireman type of thing. You release the kicker, which is basically nothing, but then you go off and you tell Landon Collins the one thing that we've all been telling you to tell Landon Collins, that he's not a safety anymore. You need to bring your butt down to the box because that's where you fit. The kicker one is an issue for me because I told you, it's hard to find quality kickers, especially really good ones. Now, the crazy part about it was that I'm surprised they didn't go after the kicker that's on Baltimore's practice squad. The guy that they said that they were that Baltimore might release Justin Tucker for. Dang, what is his name? Verdi or something like that. I think his name is Verdi or something like that. And I remember during the preseason there was talk about the fact of Justin Tucker possibly being released for Verdi. And I think Verdi is on Baltimore's practice squad. And the fact that Washington didn't think to go after him, that to me reeks of the problem with this franchise and the problem with the people who's making the decisions, because instead of going after him, they go and get this guy Blewett, who basically has no NFL experience for real when it comes to kicking in the NFL. So I tell you, to me, that was a bad one. Like I said again, we can criticize players all day, but if we're not, like, some of y'all were talking about releasing the kicker. Me, on the other hand, I never say anything about releasing Dustin Hopkins because of the fact that one reason and one reason only. There is no way to find quality kickers just out there. Now, can Washington sit up there and make the move and go get Verdi from Baltimore? Yes, they can. But I'm pretty sure after I take this somehow, some way, Baltimore's going to find a way to put him on their 52-man roster so he won't be able to be touched. But I tell you, y'all. I mean, it's one of those things where it makes some sense, but it doesn't make any sense because of the fact that, again, like I said, yeah, he was missing kicks, but this year he only missed 2. In reality, he missed 4. 2 extra points and 2 field goals. That's it. And remember, one of those games, remember the Giants game was won. It could have been lost off of Dustin Hopkins missing a kick, but guess what? It ended up being won because he made the second kick after the penalty. So as much as some people may be happy about this move to me is not a really good move. It is one that I think is, unless Blewett somehow becomes like this great kicker out of nowhere and he was just an overlooked kicker, that could be possible. But again, he has no NFL experience. Like I said, again, the guy that's in Baltimore, I think he's on their practice squad. But I remember him because I remember the talk was that Baltimore may have to release Justin Tucker to go with this guy. So that's number one. Number two, Ron Rivera came down and he told Landon Collins that he's now a in-the-box safety or linebacker. And that, he was professional about it and stuff like that. And he basically said back that he was a safety and all this. I'm glad this was done. And the fact that Ron is understanding that us as a fan base are a little bit more intelligent than what he gave us credit for. And the fact that he's finally figuring that out, we're starting to see that. Cam Curl needs to take over the position he's best at because, again, he made an impact there. We're going to also have to see what they do in the sense of Jeremy Reeves and DeShazer Everett. Will they bring these guys up to start against Green Bay on this Sunday so we can see what is really happening with this team? Now, I'm glad that was said because it needed to be told to a guy who was clearly in denial about his ability and his skills. Landon Collins' skills as a quality coverage safety is no longer there. And not only that, he was being victimized often. Like I told y'all, last week, Kansas City sat up there and immediately yanked their guy who was basically just like Landon Collins. He was a guy who was basically in trouble every time the passing game came about. Last week, Kansas City said, nope, we're putting in another safety. They put him in. They played the other guy, Daniel Sorensen, down at the line and did exactly that. So now we're starting to see that Ron Rivera is slightly turning his football mind on and not depending on analytics as much. I still think that he's dependent on analytics, but he needs to stop doing that. But again, like I said, to me, these two moves to me reeks of Arsonist Fireman. Because I mean, now I could be wrong about the Dustin Hopkins thing. If Blewett comes in and he does a great job and he's making all his kicks and things like that, then at that point, Ron Rivera can sit there with his chest poked out and say, okay, y'all, I see what's going on. But the first kick that he misses, understand the jokes will come about. And when the jokes come about, understand that along with the jokes about his name coming out, understand it's going to get worse and it's going to be hard to build up the confidence of a guy whose last name is called Blewett. Again, like I said, to me, these two moves reeks of Arsonist Fireman. And hopefully these moves does somehow help the team. But again, it doesn't account for the William Jackson situation. He still doesn't look that good. It doesn't account for how our linebackers look. That doesn't come about. And I want to say this too. Closing out the show, I want to say this. There's all this talk about Jamin Davis and his 11 tackles. But that's a stat that they're putting out there to make you think he did more than what he really did. So let me explain it. Let me break the stats down. First off, he did have 11 tackles. That is true. But in the breakdown of the tackles, he had 5 solo tackles and 6 assisted tackles. So what that means is that his tackles were happening when other people were around helping with the tackle as well. Now, the reason most people didn't notice his tackles is because most of the tackles that he was getting that were solo tackles happened at a point where he was trailing the play and he happened to catch up with the ball carrier or the person who caught the ball. Now, on the opposite side of that, you have Nick Bolton, who had 9 tackles. Of his 9 tackles, 7 of them were solo tackles. 2 of them were assisted tackles. Now, a lot of you are going to say, that's crazy that he had less tackles, but I noticed him more because a lot of the tackles Nick Bolton was making were impact tackles. Like there were tackles that he made that was behind the line, that stopped the run, that sealed up the holes. He did that. This is the guy that I said Washington should have drafted. Not only that, what you guys don't know is that Kansas City is using him incorrectly. That's the even crazier part about this, is that Kansas City is completely using Nick Bolton incorrectly, and he still had 7 solo tackles by himself. So understand this. Jamin Davis might become better as his career goes along, but Nick Bolton is nice now. And once they finally realize how to actually use him, he's going to be just as mean as somebody like a Bobby Wagner. How about my guy that I talked about, what was it, last year? I think it was last year or 2 years ago. Jordan Brooks. Look at what he's doing up there in Seattle. I'm telling y'all, there's a lot of mistakes going on, but at the same time, we're definitely going to have to see what happens, what goes on. Again, like I said, these moves reeked of the Arsonist Fireman, and I don't really approve of the Dustin Hopkins move, but if somehow these 2 moves make some type of impact, then I'll appreciate it. But for right now, these 2 moves, well, one gets a thumbs up, telling Landon he's not a safety no more. Releasing Dustin Hopkins gets a thumbs down. This has been your man, John Fortune, and this has been the Frustrated Fan Sports Show.